So when it comes to Upwork, most freelancers are concerned with the idea of how do I win clients? And that makes sense. But one of the most important skills to have when you're on Upwork is actually how do you avoid bad clients? It's almost more important than winning clients. The reason for that is because every single bad client that you end up working with is going to set you back. It's going to set back your job success score, and it's just going to cause you to not want to be on Upwork at all. And so if you can learn how to avoid bad clients, you're going to be able to have so much more longevity and success on Upwork. So we're going to talk about all the things you need to do to avoid getting into situations with bad clients. So Jessica, what is the first thing freelancers should do in order to avoid ending up with a nightmare bad client?
As you're opening up Upwork and you're looking through the job feed, the first indicator is budget. The budget is the tell-all sign if this is a high-value client or a low-value client. As I'm a freelancer and I'm looking through the different jobs and I see the budget, this indicates to me how serious this client is about solving this problem. It also shows me the level of expertise they're looking for. So if they have a budget of like $10 an hour, I'm going to run for the hills. That's a job that's not meant for me to provide support with, versus if they have a higher budget listed, or if they include a line in the job description that says, hey, budget's flexible, let's talk about it. That is a better indicator that this is a client that's going to pay for a higher tier freelancer.
Yeah, I mean, the budget that you see in the job post is really like the first indicator of is this a potential high value or a potential low value client? A lot of times, though, they will have no idea what certain services cost and they'll put in a placeholder. But it can be like that first hint. Is this a client that's looking for a budget freelancer, or is this a client that actually values freelancer skills and is possibly willing to pay a higher rate? So that's the first place I look, is the rate. Is this a high rate? Is it a low rate? And if it is a low rate, is it a placeholder? So the first thing you want to do is just look at that budget, see if it makes sense for you and what you charge, and then you can continue on to screening the job post.
And one thing I'll say is I made this mistake starting out freelancing is I would see a few jobs and the budget would be quite low, right? But the project itself was very interesting. It's very intriguing. And so I naively thought, oh, maybe if I can get on a discovery call with them, I can sway them to pay me more. And that is just not the right thought process. A lot of these clients have a budget already set. So if they say, I am only looking to pay $10 an hour, that is your cue. Again, just don't even waste your time. Move on to the next job description that you see, because there's more clients out there and you don't want to waste your time with a low value client that cannot pay your rates.
Okay, so after looking at that budget and getting kind of a rough idea of whether they can afford me or not, the next thing we do is we look at that job description. And this is going to be telling us so many things about the client, about the company, and about the kinds of freelancers that they're actually looking for, and how they treat freelancers. I mean, there's so many things that you're going to be able to pick up on in this job description that might be hidden between the lines. So you really want to make sure to pay close attention to every single sentence in the job description.
So the first red flag to me is we're looking at a job description. If it literally looks like a 9 to 5 employee job, like a job description, this is your title, these are the deliverables that you're responsible for, here's time off. Like if it looks like an employee job description, run the other way. Because again, we've talked about this before. If you are a freelancer or a contractor and they're trying to hire you as an employee, well, that's the worst of both worlds, right? Because you don't get any of the benefits of an employee and you don't get treated like a freelancer. And I see a lot of these job descriptions on Upwork, and that's no good. You don't want that. You want to keep scrolling, keep moving on if it looks like it's truly like a 9 to 5 employee job.
Yeah, so when I'm looking at job descriptions, what I'm looking for is how are they treating potential freelancers? Do they see you as someone that's way beneath them that they're just going to bark orders to? Or do they see you as an expert that they're looking to help them with a specific problem? It's two very different mindsets, and you need to make sure that you're avoiding all clients who think that you're a commodity, that think that they can just give you a job description type list of things that you have to do. You are looking for clients that want to see you as the expert, not as someone that they can boss around and do menial work. So this is the first thing that I'm looking for is in the tone of their job description. Are they looking for a partner or are they looking for a slave that they can bark orders to?
Some of the best clients that I've worked with on Upwork strike a balance in terms of the length and information in the job description, right? It's not really extensively long, that pretty much mirrors a 9 to 5 employee job description, but it's also not super short. It's not like 1 to 2 sentences. It's this medium length where they can clearly articulate what they need help with, they know what they're looking for, and they share a little bit of information about them and their company because that will help you as a freelancer understand, okay, wow, this client is in the manufacturing industry. I have examples. Let me attach them. Like they kind of cue you up for success, sharing a little bit of information. The most annoying part to me is when you're looking through all these different jobs and you see something that was so general, like for social media. I need a social media manager. I want to go viral. Well, that's nearly impossible, first of all, to predict virality. Secondly, how on earth am I going to customize my proposal? That is literally the most general job description out there. They're not setting you up for success. So I feel like a high value client understands that. They want to find the right fit and they're willing to give a little bit more information. They're willing to spend the time making sure that this job description communicates exactly what they need.
Yeah, and that leads right into the effort that they actually put into this job description. And the lowest possible effort that I see are the ones that are very obviously written with AI. They're overly formatted. They've got bullet points and emojis. It just makes me cringe because it's like you're looking for an expert for to help you and your company, but you're not willing to just write out a paragraph, down to earth paragraph that helps me understand exactly who you are and what you're looking for. Instead, you asked ChatGPT to write you basically a job description, not a freelance job description. You actually had ChatGPT write you a job description, and you are not hiring an employee, you are hiring freelancers. So why am I having to look at this overly complicated, overly long description when you could have just took in 5 minutes, wrote out exactly what you needed, down to earth, and we could have gone from there. So one of my red flags personally is all those job descriptions that were written with AI. I know that Upwork actually promotes writing job descriptions with their built-in AI, but for me personally, none of those have ever panned out for me, and the best clients are the ones that are willing to put in the effort to just write a simple job description and that gives me enough information so that I can respond with a simple proposal.
And obviously, we are not against using ChatGPT, right? Especially if maybe you wrote a job description and you're finessing it, you're improving it, you're making it more effective, totally fine. But what Tyler is saying is that the intention behind using ChatGPT is a red flag in itself. This client is taking shortcuts, which is not good because that's not going to put you as the freelancer in a good position. That means they probably don't know what they want. And secondly, they probably want it as soon as possible. So those are two major red flags. So if you start to see those ChatGPT kind of just templated job descriptions, just keep on scrolling.
Yeah, and the other problem with these AI job descriptions is that as a freelancer, it's all about your relationship with the client, being able to have good rapport, being able to have a good relationship with these clients. And one of the most important screening tools that you can have when you're looking at these descriptions is being able to get a sense for their personality, being able to get a sense for who they are as a human being. Because the best clients are the ones that are the easiest to work with, that are the most friendly, that are the most respectful to you. And if their entire job description is written with AI, there's no way to get a sense for who this person is. And so you don't want to go in blind into this relationship. That's another reason why fully AI written descriptions are a red flag for me, is because I can't get a sense for who this client is as a person.
And then how on earth are you supposed to customize your proposal? And connects are expensive and you want to be really strategic with the proposals that you're sending. And so it's not going to be worth it to you if you're just spending your hard-earned money on these chat GPT job descriptions.
So you're looking in the description, you're looking at it for the tone, you're trying to get a sense for the personality, you're trying to get a sense for, do they view you as a partner or do they view you as an employee? And then the last thing you want to look for is, what are their expectations? What do they actually want as a final product? And is that a reasonable expectation based upon the budget that they've listed? So if it always makes me laugh when I see these job descriptions that are 5 pages long, so many things you got to hit. You got to do this, you got to do that. We expect you to be here, we expect you to be there. And then you look at the budget and it's like an introductory freelancer budget. They're looking for an expert, but they don't want to pay an expert rate. So, what are their expectations and is it in line with what you can deliver? And is it something that is a reasonable expectation even for an expert freelancer?
So another reason why the budget is such a critical piece of information for you as a freelancer to understand, is this a low value client or is this a high value client? Because if it's a low value client and they're expecting the moon to be delivered, whatever, and they have a $10 budget, the stakes are so high because it could be a self-funded project. They could be spending this money literally out of their bank account versus a high value client usually has a little bit more budget to work with and the stakes are lower. Obviously, as a freelancer, you're expected to deliver the results regardless, but wouldn't you rather work with a high value client?
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing you need to be looking for in these job descriptions is this a solopreneur or is this an actual company? Is this a company that actually has revenue or is this a solopreneur who is bootstrapping their company and trying to get it off the ground using their own money out of their own pocket? So another huge thing you need to look for in these job descriptions is you need to figure out, is this a funded company that has a business that actually operates with clients, or is this a solopreneur who is looking for someone that's going to give them a Hail Mary in terms of the value they provide? So that's something I always look for. I look for to make sure if this is a real company or if it's just someone working, getting their business started in their garage.
And you can tell, right? When you start paying attention, it'll start to become obvious. They'll use the word I, mine, maybe even self-funded versus like if it's an actual company, they're going to say our team, the company, right? So you'll start to be able to pick up on those specific words. The other red flag I want to point out, which is a little bit more nuanced, is, does the client first of all know what they want, and then what's the reasoning? So I've seen numerous job posts out there where it's like, we want to go viral. Well, cool. What does that mean? Like, going viral, there's so many different reasons behind that. Do you want more sales? Do you want more visibility? Like, what do you want? So if a client just says like a flat out blanket statement, that indicates to me they don't actually know what they want and they don't actually understand what's going to get them there. So they might think, oh, I need a social media manager to go viral. Well, maybe you actually need like a CMO, someone who actually has a strong business background to help grow the company and the sales. So start to pay attention, at least start to be aware of the words clients use, how they're communicating what they want, the expectations, and then it'll start to become a lot easier.
So, as we're talking about expectations and how clear they are, one of my favorite things that clients can do is they give examples. They give references to either work that they've done in the past that they're trying to emulate, or they give you examples of work that other people have done that they want to emulate. And this is kind of the gold standard for understanding expectations. I always try to look for these examples because it's going to give you such a clearer idea of what they're trying to create. So, always look for examples. And again, if you look at the budget and then you look at the example of what they're trying to create and they're way off, avoid that client because they don't understand what high quality work actually costs.
So let's say you're reading through the job description, everything is sounding pretty good, and then maybe you get to the last sentence and it says, we need this tomorrow, or we need this as soon as possible. And again, a red flag. And to me, when I see a client needing something as soon as possible, this indicates to me that they don't know how to plan. They don't know how to plan. They don't know how to manage. There's chaos typically when it comes to like their internal processes and systems. And again, that's not a huge deal, But it puts you as a freelancer in a really bad position because they could be expecting a Hail Mary situation, which I have been in many, many Hail Mary situations, and it never works out well because there should never be one point of success or one point of failure for any business out there, right? So again, if you see as soon as possible, if you see like we need this tomorrow, run for the hills.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with having a short timeline or an urgent project, but the client needs to be paying for that. If it's an urgent project, the rate needs to reflect the urgency of that project, and you should definitely be making more than you normally would if you're working on a compressed timeline. So that is the job description. Take your time looking through that and making sure that they don't have any huge red flags in terms of the description. Now you can move on to the client details, which is kind of that sidebar where you can get some more information on the client. It's really nice that Upwork provides this information for us because, again, it's going to give us so many hints about the potential of this being a good client or a bad client.
So the first thing that you want to look for is how experienced is this client on Upwork, right? Do they have 0 Upwork projects under their belt, or are they a seasoned pro? Now, if they don't have any projects under their belt, that's okay. It's just a orange flag, something that you want to be aware of because that's going to indicate to you as the freelancer, you just might have to hold their hand a little bit more and kind of coach them through using the Upwork platform. The other, I guess, red flag wrapped up in that is like if they don't have any experience, they don't have any projects under their belt on Upwork, how are you going to look for reviews? How do you know if this is a good client? Is this a bad client? Do they have a track record of leaving other freelancers negative reviews, right? So it doesn't give you a lot of data to work with.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked with a lot of clients that, it's their very first project on the platform, but it's definitely more of a red flag if they've never hired anyone and you're spending money sending your proposal to them because you're missing out on so many data points about, did they leave reviews for other freelancers? Did they treat other freelancers with respect? And how much did they actually pay other freelancers? So there's a lot of information that you're missing out on if this is their very first job post. And another thing that happens, I know a lot of people complain about it, is they might be one of those mini clients who post a job on Upwork and then never hire anyone at all. I know this is the bane of our freelance existence on Upwork is all these job posts that we have to spend money sending proposals to, and then no one gets hired. And especially these clients that are there, with no job history, the odds of them not hiring anyone are definitely way higher than the job posts where the client has already hired freelancers in the past. So just take that into consideration when you're looking at how much should I actually invest in this proposal in terms of connects. Now, if they actually do have some history on Upwork, this is going to be super valuable for you because it's going to let you see what did the freelancer score for them, and then what did they score for the freelancer on the reviews. So obviously, you want to work with clients that freelancers have been rating well, and you want to work with clients that rate freelancers very well because if they're willing to leave a bad review for other freelancers, they might have worked with a bad freelancer, but that's kind of their fault for not choosing the right freelancer. Regardless, them leaving a bad review on any freelancer's page is a huge red flag and probably disqualifying, in my opinion.
So the next data point to pay attention to is looking at the average amount spent, right? So you can not only see like the total amount that this client has spent to date on Upwork, but it includes on average, how much are they spending per project? And again, that indicates to you from like a budget standpoint, is this a low value client or is this a high value client that's willing to invest in top tier talent?
Yeah, you want to work with clients that have a lot spent and that have a high hourly rate average spent. So I'm super glad that Upwork provides this information to us because if we see a client who averages less than $10 per hour, that's probably going to be a low value client and we don't have to invest the connects to actually send that proposal. And then the last detail that you can see actually is how many jobs have they posted versus hired for. So you can see their hiring percentage rate and you can see is this a client that constantly posts job posts but never hires anyone? And that is a huge red flag if you see a lot of open jobs but no hires. So take a look at their hire to post rate and make sure that it's high so that you can avoid wasting your money sending in that proposal.
So, assuming you've passed step one, step two, you have submitted a proposal for this specific job. Now you wait to see if the client reaches out, and then we enter step three, which is client communication. So, you want to be on high alert when it comes to communication because the way they communicate, the words that they say, how they say it when you eventually get on the discovery call is going to have so much insight into how this client is going to treat you. Do they respect you? Is this going to be a good long-term partnership? Or is this just a low-value client that just wants the deliverables and is on their way?
Yeah, I mean, they might have gotten through step one, they might have passed step two, but until you actually have one-on-one communication with this client, I would not assume that they're high value or low value quite yet. You need to be able to communicate with them and get a sense for who they are and how they communicate before you can actually determine if they're a good client or not. So this is where the communication screening process starts if they respond to your proposal.
So, the first thing I look for in client communication is the tone of their voice. How friendly are they? How cold are they? Again, this is a partnership. This is an equal partnership. They are hiring you to provide a top tier service for hopefully the long term. And you want to make sure this is a good partnership. You can rely on them. You can trust them. They respect you. So, the tone of voice you can see over Upwork messages. Also, do they greet you? Do they call you out by name? Hi, Jessica. Thanks for sending this proposal. Would like to learn X, Y, and Z, right? Do they use correct punctuation? Like, how fast are they responding? How quickly are they expecting a response? All of these data points are going to help you kind of paint this picture. Is this a client I want to move forward with? One thing I will say, especially when it comes to Upwork messages, is I have had some really great clients ask me some questions and also vice versa. Because again, this is an equal partnership. You're trying to screen them as much as they are trying to screen you. And I wouldn't necessarily dismiss them if they have like a few questions, right? They want to know a little bit more about your experience, maybe some case studies. That is completely fine. But also from your perspective as a freelancer, you need to clarify what they're looking for. So if you have any questions based on what you read through in the job description, this is also your opportunity to get those questions answered quickly.
Yeah, so after I submit a proposal, and in my proposal, I just put my rates right there because most clients, when they post jobs, they usually set it up as an hourly project, but I only charge via fixed prices. So in my proposal, I'm actually telling them right out of the gate, here's what I charge per day. And so they can get a sense of how much this is going to cost before they even decide to respond to my proposal. Now, if they do respond to my proposal, they already have a sense for my pricing, and that means they're probably okay with my pricing. So that's a green flag right there if they respond at all. But yeah, I'm always looking for how distant are they in their communication? Are they warm and friendly, or are they cold and distant and not thanking me for responding to the proposal and just treating me like a commodity? So that's really the first thing you want to look for in that, text communication before you move on to the video call. And what I always make sure before I move on to that video call is that they fully understand my estimate for the project. I never want to get on to that video call unless I know that they are willing to pay me what I'm going to charge for that project. Because I've had so many situations where everything is great. I submit my proposal, but there isn't a fully cleared understanding of what this project's going to cost. And so we end up getting on an hour-long video call, and then I send my final estimate after the video call, and they can't afford it. So it's just a way to avoid wasting hours and hours of your time. Make sure that before you get on that video call, they have a good understanding of your full quote for the project.
Yeah, I mean, I've made this mistake countless times thinking, oh, if I just get on a video call with them, I can charm them. I can charm them into a higher budget. And that has literally never, ever worked out for me. So do yourself a favor and talk pricing, talk budget before you even try to schedule a video call. Save yourself the time, energy, effort, even just like kind of the hope of working with a new prospect. Just save it because they need to be on the same page when it comes to the budget, or it's not worth your time.
All right. So, assuming communication over text is warm and friendly, and they are fully on board with what you're going to charge or what you might charge for the project, the next step in the communication phase is the discovery call, a video call with the client that you have to have before you make the final decision to click agree on that contract. So, Jessica, how do we do a good discovery call and screen them for all the nonverbal and verbal communication flags?
Well, that's a loaded question. There's so many micro steps within the category of a video call. So, first things first is do not skip this step. I think some freelancers might be tempted to skip this step, right? If you're having great communication with this client, you agree on budget, you agree on expectations, freelancers might be like, well, why do I need to go onto a discovery call with them? Like, that just seems extra. But trust me, this is kind of your last opportunity to vet them before they send you the offer, before you sign them on as a client on Upwork. So you need to take this step incredibly seriously. So on the discovery call, right? You are assessing how friendly are they? Are they speaking to you in a respectful way? Do they have good lighting? Do they have good audio? Where are they? Are they in a noisy coffee shop? Are they at home in an office, in a conference room? You are observing all of these data points because you want to make sure this is the right fit. This is a good fit for a client, and you want to work with them and start a project on Upwork, which you should not take lightly. So you're doing your due diligence. You're assessing all of these data points, and you are asking any last questions that you have, maybe about the project, about their company, expectations. Now is your chance to ask those final questions, because after the discovery call, they're going to send you the offer and then you're going to accept it, and there's no going back. This is your last chance to fully vet them.
Yeah, and high value clients will usually, this is second nature to them. They're used to video calls. They do video calls all day in their company. And so they're usually probably used to doing video calls with freelancers and vendors. So this should not be an issue for them. They should be totally fine doing it on Upwork. Now, sometimes you're going to get clients that, for whatever reason, don't want to do the video call on Upwork. Whether it's connecting their calendar or they just can't figure out the technology, but you have to be firm with them and tell them this needs to be on Upwork, because if you click on any external links to any external Zoom meetings, you can get banned for that. And I've seen it happen. So guide them through how to do it, send them an invite on the platform. And if they're not willing to do that, let them go, because it's not worth the risk of trying to communicate off platform.
And this is also your opportunity as a freelancer to not get scammed, right? You want to make sure they're actually a real person. We hear a lot about scammers on Upwork, and so having a discovery call as part of your checklist will protect you from scams.
Yeah, and it's also a great opportunity, if they are interviewing other freelancers, to separate yourself from the pack with your personality and with the quality of your communication and the quality of your video and the quality of your audio. So you need to have a really great video conferencing setup wherever you're at. Make sure your audio is perfect. And so this is just another place where you can establish yourself as a cut above your competition. So it's a win-win on both sides.
I would highly, highly recommend leading these discovery calls, because it truly shows you are the professional, right? You're not just a 9-to-5 contractor. No, you lead these calls and you see how they respond. Do they respect you leading? Is this a partnership, or are they trying to take control? Are they really trying to hire a 9-to-5 like contractor / employee on this call? No, you don't want that. So by showing up, by leading this this call, you're showing your level of professionalism. And I always like to reiterate expectations and results. I like to over communicate, especially when it comes to working with a client for the first time. I like to kind of go over, okay, great. So you're looking for X, Y, and Z around this type of timeline. How does that sound? Like, it's okay if it's messy, but you have to communicate with them because they're going to see, oh, wow, gotcha. She is professional. She is in this to win this. She cares about expectations. She cares about deadlines. And it just shows how you are a high value freelancer.
Yeah, and it's also one last great opportunity to look for any hidden expectations they might have. Things might have changed between the time that they wrote that job description and the time that right now when you're on the call with them. So it's one last opportunity to make sure you're on the same page in terms of what they're expecting out of you.
So a few years back, I probably had one of my worst discovery calls. So before the discovery call, right, I read through the job description, we're chatting over Upwork messages, seems like a great client. They own like this olive oil direct to consumer e-commerce brand. It seemed like a perfect fit, right? And I decided, okay, let's do that discovery call just as like a preliminary checkpoint. Well, we got on the discovery call and this woman was so rude to me. She did not respect me. She talked to me in this kind of demeaning way. She asked me to pull up examples on the spot, which there's nothing wrong with that. And you can be prepared. It's a little borderline disrespectful, I think, and you should have already sent case studies beforehand, but she wanted me to pull up some Instagram accounts on the spot, which is fine. But then she proceeded to kind of pick apart the content that I had created. And mind you, like this was some of the best content that I had ever posted. Like we pretty much went viral. And she was picking apart like, oh, I don't like that part of it. Why did you do that? And that was the nail in the coffin for me. Nope, this is not a client that I want to work with. I can already see my future working with this client. And this is just going to be terrible. This is going to be terrible. And so I can't remember on the call if I actually declined working with her or I sent a follow-up, but regardless, I was like, no, this is not a good fit. So you never know. And that is a lesson to all the freelancers that might be on the fence about doing this discovery call. Just always do it. Even if it's just a 15-minute check call, just do it.
And that leads right into the final step of whether you avoid or you end up with a bad client, and that is when you accept or reject that job offer. So for me, at this stage of the process, I usually have a very good feeling whether I should do it or not do it. And this might be something that you have to build up over time through years of freelancing, but after you have that discovery call, you should know pretty well if this is going to be a good fit for you or a bad fit for you. Maybe it's not even the client that would be a bad client. It's just not the right project for you and your skills or even your bandwidth. But at this stage of the process, they might have sent you that offer, that final offer that you both agreed upon. But now is the time to make that final call. Do I go forward or do I go with my gut and avoid this client?
You should never feel uneasy about it, right? You should never feel like, oh, this would be the best project except for this reason. Like it has to be a sure bet. First and foremost, like you have to be able to know deep down, like you can deliver. You can deliver them results and not only just results, but like go above and beyond, right? That's the game of Upwork is getting those 5-star paragraph long reviews. It's not worth it if you're not going to go above and beyond. You have to have this deep knowing inside of you that yes, you can kill it. You can kill it. You can pass with flying colors. You can get that 5-star paragraph long review because it's not going to be worth it if it's anything less than that, right? So you have to know and feel completely confident in not only what you can bring to the table, can you get them results, right? Can you meet their expectations, but also the partnership. Are they going to be a really good long-term client to work with? Are they a high value client? Are they a low value client? So you have to make sure you feel like 1000% sure sure that you can do an incredible job. And if it's anything less than that, just move on.
Yeah, and it's not even really about can I do an amazing job and over deliver, but is this a client that is going to appreciate that I over delivered, and are they going to even notice that I over delivered? So it's not even just about your ability to deliver on that project, it's about the client's ability to understand and know that you did a good job as well. And that, that's something you have to feel out, and that's something that you should have a gut feeling about at this stage.
I'll tell you another story. So I was this close to landing a marketing client a couple years ago, and we passed all these checkpoints, and we were just about to get on the discovery call, and I was so close to like, yeah, this client's in the bag. Like, I think this is going to be a great fit. But on the discovery call, I noticed that we had a communication breakdown. English was not his first language, but it was just like simple things like, when would this deliverable be due? Would you be in charge of this? Would someone else be in charge of this? Like basic stuff. And I was like, that is not good. I need to be able to clearly communicate with my client. And if there is a communication breakdown, that's no good. And that is one of the reasons I decided to turn them down, because it wasn't worth it to me. And I know that project could go south fast. Like, I like to be optimistic, and I'd like to think like we could course correct, I could over communicate. But if we are having communication issues on a discovery call before the offer is even signed, we have a problem here.
Yeah, like we always say, and we pound into you guys, Upwork is a long game, and it's better to be paranoid about avoiding bad clients than it is to take a risk with a potential bad client and end up with a bad client. Because especially when you're early on Upwork, these initial reviews are going to set the foundation for your profile. And so you really want to make sure you're only working with good clients. So in my opinion, you should be more paranoid than non-paranoid when it comes to making that final decision. Do I go with them or do I turn them down?
So let's say you have this discovery call and you spot some red flags and you determine this client is not going to be a good fit for me, right? I don't want to work with this client. There's these red flags. Totally fine. Well, what do you tell them? How do you turn them down? So typically what I like to do is you have that discovery call. I like to send them an Upwork message that says, hey, so-and-so, thank you so much for your time. I've had a chance to think through this project and the expectations that you have in mind. To be honest, I don't think I'm the right fit for this because of X, Y, and Z reason. However, I do have a freelancer in mind who I think could be a better fit than me. And usually I always receive positive responses from that. And I just like being genuine and honest with them versus giving them kind of like a fluffy excuse that doesn't give them a lot to work with, because I want to provide input and help them along in their freelancing hiring process. And if I don't have a freelancer to refer, I just leave it at that. So that's typically what I do in terms of turning down a project.
So that is how Jessica and I avoid getting into situations with bad clients. This is actually one of the most important things about how we've been able to have such long-term success on Upwork is we've gotten really good at avoiding bad clients. Has it cost us projects that might have turned out well? Definitely. But overall, it's a net positive because we avoid those negative clients and we only work with high value clients. And now our profiles are full to the brim with glowing 5-star reviews with clients that not only paid us what we're worth, but also really valued what we delivered. So this is what we recommend. Make sure you screen these jobs as hard as you can. Make sure you go through all of these steps, and it's going to help you avoid all of those nightmare clients on Upwork. So have you ended up with any nightmare clients? Do you have any horror stories of clients that got through your filters? Let us know in the comments. Let us know if there's any other topics you'd like us to cover. Otherwise, we'll see you in the next one.